pace has dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. It's a Thursday. It's a packed Thursday show. We have guests aplenty today. Tom Robinson from World Football Index will join us at 9:30 to talk Copa Libertadores and to talk Copa de la Liga in Argentina as we get into the playoffs. They have playoffs. It's going to get crazy. It's also a Super Classico playoff game this weekend, which will be loads of fun.
Super Classico.
I thought we had talked about that, John. I thought we had talked about that one.
I thought we did too. I thought we were going to keep doing it.
I know. No, that was not what we talked about. Michael Nsien of FC Tulsa and USL Championship will join us at 10 o'clock. We will talk about the start of the season for Tulsa. We'll talk about Michael's new pro license and a little bit on the coaching side in the United States and more. And then we'll talk to our friend Niko Moreno of Pulso Sports at 10:30. Early call out on the West Coast. His Sounders that he follows closely got a win last night against Jarrett Smith's San Jose Earthquakes.
Yeah, and it was MLS after dark, I would say. Because Roldan the Lesser had to play in goal for the last few minutes. So that's kind of dumb.
That's what's prone to happen when the sun goes down and games are played on the West Coast. And didn't Alex Roldan make a save or two?
He did. He made his box pretty well, too.
Yeah, not bad. Good job,
This will be interesting. I'll be listening in because I want to hear anything updated about the injuries that Seattle may have suffered to make things even more difficult for themselves.
They keep finding ways, though. You got to give Brian Schmetzer credit. Got to acknowledge him. He keeps getting it done.
Absolutely.
Give Schmetzer your respect.
Yes, he is at the head of the table. 3 saves for Alex Roldan. Thank you, Ricky Ricardo. All right, we have a Champions League final that has now been officially moved to Portugal. It will not be in Istanbul. It will not be in London. UEFA has announced that Manchester City and Chelsea will be played in Porto.
Not necessarily, that's a venue that has been a default venue for the European competitions. So not necessarily a surprise considering that Turkey is in the red zone for the
UK.
For the UK when it comes to travel. And I've also heard that 12,000 available for fans as well to go watch the match. So not a surprise that it was moved, and looking at Porto as a venue once again, not a surprise considering the history of the competitions this year and it being a default location.
6,000 fans from each team are able to attend, according to UEFA. They would not have been able to travel to Turkey, so UEFA wanted to do everything possible. UEFA also in their statement says that they discussed moving the match to England, but despite exhaustive efforts on the part of the Football Association and the authorities, it was not possible to achieve the necessary exemptions from UK quarantine arrangements. And from what the reporting had been, that's basically the UEFA staff, the sponsors, et cetera, who were not able to go from, a lot of them going from the Europa League final to London without a quarantine period, and UEFA wanted to get around that. Government said, nuh-uh, not so much. So it will be in Porto, and I would assume that Istanbul will get a future Champions League final here in the coming years because this is the second time in a row that they haven't been able to get this game in. So hopefully they will be able to get it in with a full crowd and make things right. But this is the right thing to do. If the fans from the teams can't go, there's no point in doing it in Istanbul. It's better for Istanbul to do it with a full crowd, even if they have to wait a few years.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you've seen, on social media, you've seen the effort that Turkey has put into wanting to host this tournament. And so, that they want it, and it'll get there at some point, hopefully, when things calm down. But it's not this time around, but, it's the safest play on the board.
It is not going to be in Constantinople, Strummer John, but that's a very good call. I like
Neither
that.
Istanbul nor Constantinople, yes.
But that's nobody's business but the Turks.
All right, there's your They Might Be Giants segment of the show that nobody saw coming. What's up with...
They Might Be Giants down here is Is it 4:15 a.m. until 4:22 a.m.?
Yes.
Well, no, you have to call and you hear it on the answering machine. It's the Dial-A podcast because that's what they're known for. So the Dial-A song. It's pretty sweet. Okay. Rangers, Jarrett, they have issued a statement asking people to be responsible with celebrating their title that they will be celebrating this weekend.
Good luck on that.
Good luck.
Yeah.
They already went through this when they clinched it. Now this is going to happen again.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing the right thing and like trying to get out ahead of it. It's just you're trying to block a waterfall with like a shovel.
That's not going to work.
No, it's they're doing the right thing. It's just not going to work. That's where it is.
Don't do it, and then they do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because they're excited because it's been 10 years.
10 years, man.
It has.
10 years.
I blame them for being excited.
That's true. Do you think Steve Bruce will be back at Newcastle next year, Jarrett? I'm just bouncing around topics as I see them pop up. Steve Bruce says he hopes to be the Newcastle manager for next season.
He will be.
Yeah, because it worked enough.
There's a lot of excitement on this appointment.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I think you could do better, Newcastle, but I don't know that you will. How about that?
Yeah, there's that. I think he probably will be there, and I don't think we have any updates on the ownership situation with Newcastle because that is still a mess, and nothing has changed.
Yeah, it's just, and as long as Mike Ashley has any say in the matter, it will be Steve Bruce's show. Sorry, Alex.
Why do you say that Mike Ashley will give the job to Steve Bruce? Does he have Steve Bruce posters on his wall from his time at Manchester United?
Yes, he does. And Steve Bruce is also financially viable. And for some reason, Mike Ashley thinks that keeping a guy who keeps you up in the top flight is the way to go instead of investing in other individuals. Although I don't know which individuals would be interested in said job, considering Mike Ashley's track record. So anyone would be far more exciting than Steve Bruce, but I think that Mike Ashley is locked into Steve Bruce until further notice. There
is speculation on the Twitch pitch that Steve Bruce has compromising photos, or that he is the cheapest manager in the EPL, or that he works for bagels. All of the above.
Yeah, choice D, exactly.
Probably all of the above. Papa Softy, I don't think anybody else is going to go to Newcastle, sadly. Sean Dyche, nobody. They should go in a different direction because I think they've seen the best of Steve Bruce, and it's not that good. So, wouldn't you want to be better?
Jorge Sampaoli for Newcastle.
No, he's killing it at Marseille. He's not leaving. He is really doing a good job at Marseille. Thomas
Jewin says Jim Curtin.
There you go. Hey,
that's a good shout.
That's actually not bad. Andrea Pirlo might be out of a job, and he's been managing a team in
dreams for Jim Curtin to make Newcastle fans happy.
Look, Andrea Pirlo might be out of a job. He's been managing a team that wears black and white stripes. If they don't get into the Champions League on the field, leave the off-the-field side out of it for a second. If Juventus doesn't qualify for the Champions League, Andrea Pirlo's out of a job.
Yep.
Newcastle could take Andrea Pirlo. Come on. Do they want to, though?
That would require investment.
Byrne read that Steve Bruce is the lowest paid coach.
Much investment.
I don't know if you take it, to be honest. That's the thing, is Newcastle's not going to get anybody transformative unless they go young and cheap with somebody with brand new ideas who would be willing to work for pennies on the dollar to get that job and show what they can do, because that's going to decide what Mike Ashley does. But anybody big and established isn't going to want to work for Mike Ashley, and that's the hard part about where you are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if they are penny pinching, then this is where you're at. Back to Serie A for a second. So there's 2 games left. Again, this is the on-the-field portion of this. Right now, Inter obviously has won the title. Atalanta's on 75, Milan's on 75, Napoli's on 73, Juventus is on 72. Does Juve miss out on the Champions League next year on the field?
God, that would be amazing.
It's starting to look that way.
Mm-hmm.
You made all these decisions and all of these moves going back to 2018 with the idea of we're going to go win Champions League and we're going to put another star on top of this jersey and on top of this trash crest that we replaced the good one with.
That's true.
And then just a couple of years later and one global pandemic later, you might not even be in Champions League.
Well, they host Inter on the weekend, which is not exactly easy. And
they're a favorite right now.
You better hope Inter's just like drunk, still partying.
Who's a favorite right now, John?
Juve.
That's strange. Maybe
plus
because
117.
They know about the drunken partying. As Nick says, Inter hates Juve. They'll sober up for that game. The final weekend, Juventus goes to Bologna. Milan goes to Atalanta. That could be a decider right there. Napoli hosts Hellas Verona. That is the final weekend of action. Serie A could be a lot of fun on that last weekend. Ricky Ricardo does not hate the Juventus crest, and he is angry with you, Jarrett. I'm assuming the last part.
I do not like the Juventus J. I like the old crest a lot.
Papa Softy says if Inter beats Juventus, it's over. It's up to Conte if he wants to give the kiss of life or death to his beloved team.
So we're saying that Conte has Juve in his collective hands, and he's just kind of staring at them.
Conte might not be back at Juve next, or back at Inter next year, so he might have to go to Juve. Like there's no telling what's going to happen with Inter saying, "Yeah, we don't have any money. We can't pay any of you right now." Thanks for the title, though. We appreciate
it.
Speaking
of Italian managers with vices, have we thought about putting Sarri at Newcastle?
I thought about putting Maurizio Sarri in a lot of places that would be highly entertaining to me. Newcastle would be on that list.
But Mike Ashley would then have to invest in cigarette machines, and I don't know if he would do that.
It's true.
Oh, there's enough bars that still have the old cigarette machines with the pull tab.
He does like to buy old things and try to make them new again, so maybe that would be it.
Yes.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that one.
He's going to have an old cigarette machine and a jukebox from 1994 at a Waffle House, and go be set. And
Sadi's going to be, at halftime, there's going to be the camera going down the chute looking toward the locker room, and just outside the locker room door is that old pull tab cigarette machine, and he's sitting there trying to pull it, and it's not working, and he's not getting the cigarettes, and he just kicks the glass in to get his pack of smokes for the half.
Man, you got Maurizio Sarri breaking things now.
Well, because it would be something that Mike Ashley
kept his cigarettes from him.
Yeah, come on now. He's got to get things squared away at the half.
No, nobody's going to keep cigarettes away from Maurizio Sarri, just like nobody puts baby in a corner. Come on now. Let's make sure we know what's going on here. Papa Softy says somebody should get Max Allegri. He is out there, and he's been out there for a while, and that's what makes me kind of wonder, why hasn't anybody gotten Max Allegri? And speaking of a big club who maybe would want to talk to Mr. Allegri, all the chatter out of Spain right now is Ronald Koeman's job is not safe.
No,
at
especially
Lecce.
Not after yesterday.
Well, I mean, that doesn't change it. It was after the day before where he actually had a very bad day where he blew 2 leads. Yesterday at Lecce finally did what Lecce should have been doing for a while and actually win, and they've pretty much sealed La Liga. It's not done yet, but they are even more in the driver's seat. Barcelona is looking at a sad day. And does Ronald Koeman stay? He did a great job with this team with all the issues that he's had. I don't know if anybody else could have done better. You're shaking your head, John. What?
I'm not looking at this logically. I'm just looking at it as a knee-jerk reaction to having the opportunity to win and then backing out of winning the championship.
Of course. I'm not saying because he did a good job, he's actually going to keep his spot. I mean, this is a club who had 57 different clauses in it on the Coutinho deal that they're still paying off. If Coutinho, gets a high score on Galaga, you have to give Liverpool more money. I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah. So, no, Barcelona's not logical, but Ronald Koeman did do a good job. He did take that team about as far as he possibly could with what he had to work with the losses that he had. He will be fine if Barcelona does move on from him. But if they do, now you've got rumors that Barcelona would be interested in Jurgen Klopp. That's actually making the rounds in Spain, which is hilarious. No idea what is going to happen if Barcelona moves on. I think it's Xavi. It should be Xavi. Everything else feels like a smokescreen.
Yeah.
Xavi's, hanging out in the Middle East, winning trophies, doing his thing, learning on the job. It should be his team. But then all these rumors pop up. Maybe they are just smoke over here, and Xavi comes in, and he's the guy, and that's the hire they should make if they're going to move on from Koeman. I think Ronald Koeman should get another year, in my opinion.
Oh, I completely agree with you. I'm not looking at it logically at all. I just don't, if they don't win the title, I just think that you're going to have another rash reaction, and Ronald Koeman is going to be sent to the beach with that. He's got one more year on his current contract, right? You signed it 2?
Yeah, I signed it 2.
Yeah, so he'll be collecting a paycheck on a beach somewhere, earning 20%.
Papa Softy said Xavi should get some European experience before. And I disagree with that, just because, one, Barcelona thinks differently in terms of the right hires for them and the managerial capacity. Pep didn't have that. Even Real Madrid, when they hired Zidane, he didn't have that. It's not a necessity. I think Xavi understands what it is to be Barcelona. And if the idea, and it should be the case from a new hire, would be to rebuild La Masia, develop from within, because you're broke, so you need to develop from within. That should be the idea. Then Xavi would be the perfect hire in that case. The absolute perfect hire, in my opinion. Jarrett, where does Neil Lennon end up? Your boy.
Probably on a TV set somewhere, if I had to guess.
Really?
Telling people what a manager did right or wrong, and then everyone yells at him, and the cycle repeats itself.
And then he becomes a caretaker manager again?
Don't know who for. Gibbs doesn't need him. Celtic ain't going to bring him back.
You sure about that?
He ain't going back to Norwich.
No. You sure Celtic's not going to bring him back?
I hope not. Bring him back for a testimonial at some point, just because of his legacy as a player and the first 80% of his stint as a manager. They'll do that.
I was going to say so then the first 70 minutes of the match will be like it has been, and then the last 20 minutes will be like it was this last season for the testimonial.
I mean, pretty much. We'll see. I don't know. I honestly think he ends up on TV, on one of the Scottish sports networks, and ends up just talking.
That's a good shout.
At the end of the day, I don't think he's going to manage. I would like to think he wants to take a break from it after everything that went wrong in his soccer life over the last let's say year and a half. Because even last year there were cracks in the there were cracks in the facade. I think he just needs a break from it. I think TV is a good place for him.
Yeah, I agree. If you didn't hear, this is Pep Guardiola talking about how Manchester City celebrated their title win on Tuesday night.
Yeah, it was so nice. Normally the parties, the unexpected parties are the nicest ones and are the works better. We organize a big party, normally it's more boring than what happened last Tuesday, after Leicester won in Old Trafford. All together we came here, and when we work in our bubble, everyone is safe. And we drink a little bit, we dance, we hack a lot, we remember how good it was, and especially at 11:30, 12 arrived 10-15 pizzas, and that was the best moment of the night.
What's your favorite flavor of pizza?
I don't know. I was not in my perfect conditions to decide which one I ate, but I think all of them was so good. What's the best moment? The pizza at 10:30. Here in England, the party is always just alcohol. It's not food. I don't understand why. So And the moment Mark decided to bring the pizzas was perfect. It was a nice moment. All together here, we celebrated really good. We have it after training a little bit. Today we prepare good the training for tomorrow and go on.
Doesn't even know what pizza he had.
Yeah.
That's a good party.
Yes, that is a good party.
Like to be at a Pep Guardiola celebration. Good grief.
Oh, that's tremendous.
So they will be getting ready for Champions League once they sober up and have some training sessions to get there. I'm really excited about this Champions League final. A lot of times, kind of like, whatever. This is a really interesting match. I think there's so many storylines in it. With what we've seen with Pep versus Tuchel, the last two times Tuchel's got the better of Pep. Pep dominated Tuchel during their time in Germany. The rise of Chelsea under Tuchel, but the 5 titles in the last 9 years for Manchester City, and what City has done this year under Guardiola with their little tweaks to the way that they play to get the best out of this particular group. I think this is a game with a lot of hype, a lot of headlines, but also a lot of meat on the bone in terms of breaking it down and digging into it. I'm really looking forward to that final.
Well, and I mean, we've talked about how Chelsea seems to have Manchester City's number recently. And we know how much of a student of the game Pep Guardiola is. And I wonder how much time they're spending in the film room analyzing the last 2 games and looking at trying to break down every single aspect of what happened in those last 2 matches.
They've done that probably 5 times already and separately. And this is what's so amazing about the way they work. Is Pep's staff will do that on their own, and they will have their notes and their opinions. Pep will do that on his own, and he will have his opinions. Then they will come together and probably watch it again 2 or 3 more times each match, and then you create the plan. That's what it is. They had their party, and Pep will have a party, and he will celebrate accomplishments because it means something. It's important to do that. But I would imagine the next morning, no matter how many drinks he had the night before and how much pizza he ate, he was probably watching one of those Chelsea games to go ahead and start preparing. And everything they do between now and then will be based on getting ready for Chelsea.
And I can't wait. And I can guarantee you that the Panenka has been banned for a penalty kick situation.
He's not even thinking about Panenkas right now.
I know.
Not even worried about that. Not even worried about that. That is the least of his concerns. It's about how do I actually find goals against this backline?
Mm-hmm.
Because Domer, you're the Chelsea guy. Don't be the oh boy, woe is me. There's no way.
No.
Come on, Domer, man. I've been talking your Chelsea team up for a while now because I've been so impressed with Thomas Tuchel and so impressed with what they're doing. All they're worried about is this Champions League final too. I think Chelsea is as much of a favorite as Manchester City. I think it's a toss-up. Don't be the woe is me guy, Domer. Believe in your squad. Yesterday was yesterday. It doesn't mean anything. Come on now.
All right, so let me look really quickly and see if the odds have changed. Ooh.
While you're looking, Jarrett, is a question on the Twitch pitch. Is Pep the Messi of managers?
Oh, Jesus. And who's the Ronaldo?
Klopp. That's actually pretty good. More north-south, just straight lines, devastating. Pep's hard to pin down. Pep's the GOAT.
Yeah,
Messi's the GOAT. It's the GOAT. GOAT status, in my opinion.
He's got modern GOAT status, I'd say. Who's the Erling Haaland then of managers?
The young up-and-comer who is breaking through.
Nagelsmann?
He hasn't really, truly done anything yet, but it might have to be. I kind of lean to Tuchel, actually, but Tuchel's a little bit older than that situation, but maybe Tuchel. Nagelsmann it should be, but we'll see what he does this upcoming year with Bayern. Thomas Joanne says, what has Klopp won to compare himself to Cristiano? Well, he's got a Champions League. He's got a Premier League. He's done pretty well. I was just thinking more like the personality, the way his team plays, to compare it to Ronaldo. That's all. Well, then there's nobody. I can't think of anybody, Alex and Thomas, who would be in that situation to be the opposite then. Sir Alex Ferguson, Papa Softy says, who is that? Pelé? Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay, what are the odds, John?
They've gone and swung around again. Manchester City's at a plus 104.
Yeah.
Your 90-minute draw, plus 238, and Chelsea's back up to plus 290.
I thought that's what it had been. I didn't think Chelsea was even under 300 yet.
Yeah, they went down to plus 270, and now they're back up to plus 290.
Okay. I didn't think they'd even gotten to that point yet. That's still absurd, and I really like the... It's not moving that much, Nick. I don't think it's moving that much. I think it's been between 310 and 270, 320 and 270, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, it was like 310, 320, down to 270, back to 290.
Yeah, it's not that much. I think there's just a lot of action on it. Go ahead, Jarrett.
According to ESPN FC, a quote that Cristiano Ronaldo's mom is trying to bring him back to Sporting.
Yeah, I think he said he wants to go there not this season, but next season.
Well, she's trying to do it this year.
Well, I mean, would you rather be in the Champions League at Sporting, or would you rather be in the Europa League or the Pub League in Italy, depending on what happens with Juventus?
Well, Inter's not going to beat my face in if I'm at Sporting. So,
it could be worse. It could be worse. Nick's
by the way,
hearing.
Maurizio Sarri is the Jim Leland of it all, if we're going to make comparisons.
No, that's yes.
I like that.
Anytime Jim Leland was managing, the seats right behind the dugout were pretty much just basically a Surgeon General's warning.
I like that. Okay.
Michael Head, our resident Chelsea guy, really quickly says he doesn't like the run-up to the final. Chelsea has to win 2 league matches plus the worthless FA Cup while City parties.
No, it's hard. City won't be partying, but City will be preparing. And City will know everything that Chelsea has done under Thomas Tuchel in every single match and try to have something to deal with it. So it's going to be a fun watch. But Chelsea will be sharp because of what they're doing. So I don't know. Chelsea fans, I'm a little disappointed in you this morning with all the negativity out of the Chelsea folks. A little disappointed. Jarrett, we've got to let you go because we have Tom Robinson tagging in to talk Libertadores and Argentina. So thank you.
No, that's fine. I'm going to switch and listen to all of the insanity that is South America.
Well, you can join in on the Twitch pitch, and you can join into the conversation there.
Oh, I'm just going to slander everyone. It's fine.
That's nothing new. You do that with a microphone anyway.
Yeah. You get used to it after a while.
It's true. Thanks.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
All right. Jarrett is out, and Tom Robinson will be in a minute, thanks to our friend Mateo, who will get Tom on the line. We're 4 rounds into the Libertadores in most groups. You've got the 4th game for a few teams tonight. There's been some interesting storylines that have emerged in the Copa Libertadores, and there's been some off-the-field interesting storylines as well. Tom Robinson is now with us. Tom, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, guys. How are both of you?
Doing well. Keeping very busy over here now that we're into the MLS season, and we've had CONCACAF Champions League, and it is a little hectic, but it's pretty hectic for you too, I can imagine, with everything going on in South America with Libertadores and the sprint in the group stage and Sudamericana's going on at the same time and domestic competitions. You've got to be pretty busy over at World Football Index and all the other outlets you're with.
Yeah, it's always quite a crazy time to be involved in South American football. But yeah, as you rightly said, the Libertadores is coming thick and fast. Almost doesn't feel like we've had room to sort of take in the tension and exciting storylines. It's all just sort of flashing before our eyes. It would be quite nice to almost have a little break just to ramp up the tension a little bit more. And then obviously in Argentina as well, we're through to the knockout stages of the Copa de la Liga. So it's all happening, and lots of interesting storylines out there.
So off the top, what has been let's just go the last 24 hours. What's your most interesting storyline, regardless of competition, in the last 24 hours?
Wow, that's put me on the spot there. But,
right off the top, Tom. That's
exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's got to be really the situation in Colombia, the river match that we had last night. Obviously, as I'm sure everyone's going to be aware, that the situation in Colombia is pretty bad right now. Lots of protests, lots of violence towards what started out as peaceful protests, and certainly the situation that we had there with the game in Colombia between Junior and River Plate. The players having to come off the pitch before the game because of tear gas from some happenings outside the stadium. And generally, I think we saw lots of games postponed or moved to Paraguay or Ecuador and what have you. So generally speaking, the situation in Colombia, I think, on top of the general pandemic that we're sort of seeing, which is exacerbating a lot of those tensions are out there anyway, has just added that extra layer of intrigue and questions about should these games be going ahead and what's going to happen in the Copa America. I mean, it's a massive can of worms, really, and you've got to feel for the Colombian sides who are clearly going to probably have other more important issues on their mind, and a lot of the time, certainly last week, surrendering their home advantage, which it would have been crucial for them because none of the teams are really doing that great from Colombia as it is. So yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the big one that's coming. But to be fair, wherever you look, there's surprises popping up left, right, and centre. So it's getting really interesting.
Do you think Copa America has to move games out of Colombia?
I can't see how it can go ahead at the moment. I mean, I think just having the tournament in general, as much as we'd all like to see it played, is when you're looking at a potential dual host anyway, it seems like a pretty far-fetched idea, and especially given the situation in Colombia, I think it's one of those situations where personally, if I was in charge, I probably wouldn't be letting it go ahead. But then that's probably one of the reasons why I'm not in charge of these things.
When it comes to action over the last couple of days in Copa Libertadores, it seems like Draw FC was one of the more popular teams that folks could look at. I mean, you had Atlético Nacional and Nacional in the late game was a draw. Deportes and Defensa was a draw yesterday. You had Junior and River Plate was a draw. Rentistas and Sao Paulo. So, and that's just from yesterday. So it seems like there's a lot of folks who are just holding serve right now in the last 7 days.
Yeah, definitely. It's got a bit more binary with some of the results there, with not many goals. But I think it's probably a case where now that there's more on the line, we're seeing teams maybe not go all out initially and sort of try and protect what they've got. And obviously, you've also probably got the element of tiredness creeping in as well. Certainly a lot of the travel and the back and forth and playing league games as well probably isn't going to be conducive for the best football out there as well. But yeah, maybe it's also just the teams sort of figuring out the other teams as we get into this sort of return legs for a lot of these sides that have played each other once already. But yeah, there's been, even though it's been low scoring, I think there's been plenty of interest there. It shows just the sort of unpredictability of this competition when you've got a team like Internacional who did so well in their last couple of rounds, and then they go away to Táchira in Venezuela and lose 2-1. And even that Group C there with Boca initially after 2 games looking like they were almost home and hosed with Barcelona, but then Santos have come back from nowhere and pipped them 1-0 a couple of nights ago. So it's getting tight and tense, and there's not too many groups that are already sort of good and done already. So I think these next couple of weeks are going to throw up all kinds of drama.
Group C is the one that a lot of people are talking about on the Twitch pitch here, with Barcelona on top with 9 after winning their first 3, but then losing in La Paz. Santos beating Boca. Right now, Boca is out of the top 2, and it's not like Boca can just rest this weekend and get ready for a big match hosting Barcelona. They got a Super Classico to deal with.
Yeah, exactly. It's when it rains, it pours, it seems like. So, certainly that's a game, even if they're not really that bothered about the Copa de la Liga, because Libertadores is the obsession, as is the famous chant. It's still a case that you can't be shown to be throwing in the towel in that game, even if there aren't fans in the stadium. It's still a really bitter derby, as I'm sure everyone watching and listening knows. And obviously they've also got each other in the Copa Argentina as well, so we're going to have a couple of super clásicos just when neither of these sides, who as you mentioned there, Boca are now have got a real scrap to try and get out of that Group C, and River aren't confirmed as definitely going through. So that neither side is firing in all cylinders right now. Boca looked like they were getting the job done with that really solid defense they've got there. But Santos have improved immensely from their first couple of games, and even Barcelona, after losing to the strongest, aren't quite as confident as they might have been before that game. So it's going to be interesting to see how squad rotation and that kind of thing impacts on where they put their priorities. It might be a case that with both of them having big Libertadores games coming up, they might both go for a bit of not a gentleman's understanding, but certainly they might both rest a few players, and certainly we've seen that in the past when they've faced each other in continental competition and had a league game in between. So really, really interesting. Just adds a whole extra layer of interest to the whole dynamic.
So then let me take you to Group B, where you can pretty much take a blanket off your bed and throw it all over everybody, because Internacional always ready, Táchira and Olimpia Asuncion, 3 points separate, and you've got the top three in the group. It's goal difference. Now, is it just because they're beating each other up, or is this one of the groups coming into the tournament where everybody thought that, this isn't going to be the cream of the crop here, and so we're looking at a competition that was going to be like this in Group B?
Well, I think going into the competition, most people would have had Internacional and Olimpia as clear favourites, and it looked like one of the groups that perhaps didn't have as much intrigue to it. But you've always got that element of the Bolivian altitude that's a leveller for absolutely anyone, and Always Ready have actually, much to my surprise, been easily the best Bolivian team. The strongest have been terrible in comparison, apart from that result the other night. And Always Ready won both their home games, and if they beat Olimpia tonight, then they're in a really, really strong position. And if they can get a point on the road somewhere, then 10 points is usually a good score to get you through to the next round. So the fact that Olimpia have been really poor, the fact that Internacional on some days look brilliant, and they've got such a good array of attacking talent. Tyson coming back as well from Ukraine is looking like an inspired addition to their squad, and Táchira being a lot more competitive than any of us expected, especially again really focusing on that home advantage that they've been doing well in. So this is a surprisingly tight group, and one that is certainly giving me a bit more interest than I would have predicted at the start of the tournament.
With our friend Jorge watching in the Twitch pitch, I've got to ask you about the Ecuadorian clubs. Barcelona, we've talked about a little bit, but Independiente del Valle is battling it out with Defensa y Justicia to get through in Group A. What's your take on Liga de Quito, on Independiente del Valle, and on Barcelona, the Ecuadorian clubs, and their potential for success?
Yeah, I mean, the Ecuadorians are definitely looking outside of the big two of Argentina and Brazil, the nation that's looking like it's going to provide us with certainly at least one team that can probably get to the quarterfinals, maybe even further. Barcelona have been impressive up until their last result, but away in Bolivia, that's there's no shame in losing there at all, and they've been really solid and impressive in general, getting the job done, and got some good players. I think we knew from both Independiente del Valle and also LDU Quito that they were in two of the more tight, or the tighter and probably some of the two most entertaining groups on paper before. But despite losing I think it's their first ever loss in the Libertadores at home for Independiente del Valle against Palmeiras earlier in the week. I mean, they've only had about 24 games, I think, in the Libertadores in their history, but that initially seemed like quite a bit of a shame that they couldn't have capitalized on that. I think they had about 70% possession, really dominated the ball as they always do, but their issue has been being clinical in front of goal, and they showed it against Universitario. But yeah, that kind of reared its ugly head again. But with that draw for Defensa y Justicia away in Peru, it's opened the door right up again for them, because if they can beat Universitario, which you'd imagine they would do, and then they're going to be in the driving seat for that final game against Defensa, just potentially needing a draw to get through, or having better goal difference as well. So that's going to be a really fascinating storyline. There's going to be a really good team that goes out of that Group A. And as for LDU Quito, again, really fascinating group. Flamengo looking on fire right now. They're a bit leaky at the back, but going forward, Gabby as he's now known, not Gabby Go.
Oh, he's just Gabby now.
Just Gabby now. It's hard to keep track of his latest name and his latest haircuts, but he's in great form. And Derechquieta, Bruno Henrique, they've got so much going forward, and they're pulling out some real clutch moments in tight games to show what they're made of. So they're looking good. And Vélez, after a tough start, and now coming back into it. So tonight we've got a really, really fascinating game between Quito and Vélez, because I think this, before the group started, this looked like it would be the two teams duking it out for that second place, and it's set up to go that way. And Vélez doing great in the domestic competition and finding form at the right time, I think. So it'd be a real shame if only one Ecuadorian side got through, because I think all three of them are capable of making the quarterfinals at least.
Who has been the most pleasant surprise so far to you, and who has been the biggest disappointment so far?
Yeah, I think probably the most pleasant surprise, especially coming from an Argentinian sort of point of view, has been Argentinos Juniors. They were by far and away the team that I had the least expectations for out of the Argentinian contingent. But they won their first three matches 2-0. They've been really solid at the back, and they've been taking their chances up front, and even being shown that they're not just a fairly dour, solid, organised team. They've shown some flourishes of some really nice moves and some good play. Avalos up front for them's on fire, and Florentin is a really interesting playmaker that's coming through. I think he's about 22. So they've been a really nice surprise, and as I already mentioned, Always Ready have been a good team to watch, and being really impressive from a Bolivian point of view. And even Deportivo La Guaira have come up and shown that they're a really tough team to beat. But I think other than that, Atlético Mineiro are also looking like they could be a bit of an under the radar bet to go quite far in this tournament, with Hulki up front smashing the goals in, and a good supporting cast around as well. So they've probably been my pleasant surprises. And in terms of disappointments, it's tricky. I wasn't expecting too much from Racing, and they haven't really changed my opinion on that. And Nacional from Uruguay, I thought we might see quite a different attacking version of the Uruguayans, but they kind of seem like they've maybe tried to change too much too quickly, and are languishing in a group that they definitely could have got out of. So there's definitely been a lot of interesting and different results than what I was expecting, and that's why we love the Libertadores. Yeah,
it's kind of shocking to see a club like Nacional concede over 2 goals a game. That's just not what we expect out of an Uruguayan club. Jorge says the biggest disappointment to him is Sporting Cristal. The champions of Peru look awful. Peruvian soccer is in a really down period right now, right?
Yeah, especially on the continental stage, they've almost become a bit of a running joke in terms of no one really expecting them to do anything. I mean, even clubs from you would say weaker domestic leagues like Bolivia, like Venezuela, have shown that they're capable of going further, and yes, perhaps Chile is another one of the disappointing nations in recent years. But yeah, it's been a really long time since we've had anything to shout about from the Peruvians. And yeah, as he rightly says, Cristal they've had their chances in a group that realistically they could have easily got out of, because Racing have been poor. Sao Paulo have just got the job done, but even showed, against Rentistas that they're not firing on all cylinders just yet. And Rentistas are a tiny club that are doing well to compete, but they have no business really being in the competition. So yeah, Cristal is one of the disappointments, and yeah, it's hard to say what really they can do to get sort of back to where they would see themselves. It's the league needs to improve. The administration of the league has a lot to answer for as well, and also just maybe a bit more work at youth level to try and get more players, into a position where they are seen as viable targets for not just European clubs but other clubs around South America as well, because you don't see too many emigrating and having a great success. Maybe a few in Mexico, but there's a long way to go, and there's no easy fix for them, unfortunately.
I think it's really easy to forget that the Sudamericana is going on at the same time as well, and some storylines there. I'd love to pick your brain on anything that stood out to you. Big game tonight, maybe one of the bigger ones in this group stage with Grêmio and Lanús. That should be a really interesting one tonight at 6:15. But what else has jumped out to you about the Sudamericana?
Well, I suppose one of the positives for Peruvian football has been Melgar, at least doing very well in the Sudamericana there. So they are giving the Peruvians some hope there. But it's I think it's been certainly, I've been impressed by Peñarol. The fact that they've been coming out firing, especially in a group with Corinthians there. They've got some good young players, and making up for the fact that they've missed out on the Libertadores for the first time in a while. So that's an interesting storyline. I'm interested to see how Facundo Torres does there, and also Agustin Alvarez Martinez. He's another good striker that I think people should keep an eye out for. And then other than that, it's Independiente's run has been quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
They obviously had that really tough scenario of going across to Bahia, and not really, some of their players not being allowed into the country and having to be flown back to Argentina, and then some of the guys who were allowed to stay there sleeping on the floor in the airport. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we've seen lots of the kind of the difficulties of traveling with COVID in the world. I mean, even with Boca's goalkeeper Esteban Andrada stuck in Ecuador still, I think, after a bit of a debacle there. So yeah, Independiente doing well, scoring a lot more than they are in the league, at least anyway. And then also just that really interesting Group G, which is the one with Emelec, Bragantino, Talleres and Tolima, which is maybe not been as free scoring as perhaps we might have expected, but it's still tight as anything, and you could still see plenty of twists and turns there. So yeah, lots going on, and probably haven't given it as much attention as I should do with the Libertadores going on at the same time, but there's only so many hours in the day.
Oh, come on.
There's so much going on right now.
Well, and I asked you about teams that have disappointed or surprised. Let me get to individual players. So for folks who are just kind of hopping into these competitions for the first time, who are some of the standouts that have been there for you so far when it comes to players other than Gabby Goal / Gabby? Now I guess he's Gabby Assist until something else happens with his hair. But who are some of the standout players that folks need to be looking at so far? Yeah,
so I think you can't really look away from the Brazilian sides right now, and Rony for Palmeiras he's just on great form right now. He's got a claim to be the best player in South America. I think he's had certainly about 9 goals, 7 assists in his last 14 games in the Libertadores for Palmeiras. He's really a fantastic player to watch, and there's obviously a lot of good kids at Palmeiras who I'm sure many many of us will have seen in their run to the final. And then, you've got some of these sort of golden oldies coming back and doing the business. Fregi for Fluminense, he loves this competition, and I think it's a really fascinating storyline with him up front and the young Manchester City bound Kaiki, he's looked really, really impressive, and he's also getting goals and assists and really contributing in the attacking play. Something that I think is quite easy to forget, that he's just 17 and he's already making those meaningful impacts on games. So he's one of the young players who's lived up to the hype. And then other than that, you're looking at another Kaiki, this time Kaiki Melo, the Santos centre back, another 17-year-old who I thought he was absolutely brilliant against Boca. For a player that young to marshal Tevez and co with such authority, and read the game really well, was dominant in the air, could bring the ball out of the back. I think he's one of the young players who maybe we don't focus on defenders so much, but he's been another real nice surprise there in the competition. So they're definitely some of the standout players, but it's been all Brazil so far, and I do feel like that they're probably one of those Brazilian teams is probably gonna walk away with the title.
I got to ask you about Argentina, because the Copa de la Liga playoffs are coming up, and it is awkward, especially for your Bocas and your Rivers. You've got a couple of teams who did really well in Group A who are not involved in these CONMEBOL competitions. Colón won Group A. Estudiantes is in Group A. Do you think maybe they have a little bit of an edge because they're not distracted by the midweek stuff?
100%. I think you've got to be looking at both of those sides to really try and hammer home their advantage of that extra rest. I mean, Colón have generally been one of the best sides in the competition. It almost doesn't feel like a surprise that they're right up there now, because they've been that early pace setter and they just haven't let go. They've obviously got Luis Pulgar Rodriguez, who I think is a cult hero for anyone who watches Argentinian football, and
yes, he's
top of the combined goals and assists charts. But they've also got a really, really interesting player called Facundo Farias. He's an 18-year-old. He just kind of converted from an attacking midfielder to a support striker with Pulgar up front, and he's got a bit of the devil in him. He's got that Carlos Tevez kind of vibe to him, where he's not only really technical and he's got all the tricks and a good shot on him as well, but he's the type he'll get stuck in. He'll maybe leave one late on you, and he'll never give you a moment's rest, basically. And he's someone who I think Juventus have been linked with, and certainly he's a really good breakthrough talent that's come through at that Colón side, and all the way through that team there's good players. Castro and Aliendro have been good in midfield. The defense has been extremely solid, and even positions like right back, where they lost Vigo to River, Mesa's come in and done great there as well. So Colón, I think on the right side of the draw for them as well, they're going to be, certainly if they don't get to the final, they're going to feel like they've mucked up there. And then Estudiantes versus Independiente, probably the least appetizing fixture of the quarters, but they've been solid. They can do a job, and they're going to be tough for anyone to beat. So with all the other sides in continental competition, then it's going to be really interesting to see who can juggle both of those and see who kind of prioritizes which more than the other.
Has it surprised you the way that it's been laid out so far, or has it pretty much gone true to form as to how you thought things would go when it comes to the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's obviously a few sides that you maybe would have expected to do better. I think I always expected Boca and River to pull through, albeit not in spectacular fashion. Vélez, one of my picks and one of my favorite teams in Argentina, they've really romped away, and apart from that really strange 7-1 loss that seemed such a aberration, I think that made up for more than half the goals they conceded in the entire 13 games. They've been brilliant, almost better than they have been in the Libertadores, really. And and Talleres, who I think on one of the early shows that we did at the start of the tournament, I picked, and then they promptly went and didn't win for about another 4 or 5 weeks, and I thought I'd curse them. They came back with a really nice sort of 7 in a row unbeaten streak, and even though they almost threw it away on the last day, losing to Lanús, they just about held on. So definitely Colón and Estudiantes being the big 2 surprises. But the fact you've got the big boys like Independiente and Racing, who they're always going to be up and around there, even if neither of them are looking great right now. So yeah, it's I think those were the 2 main surprises. But other than that, it's pretty much business as you are.
So with everything going on in South America and everything else you do as well, Tom, what do you have coming up that people can be on the lookout for?
Yeah, so I've got a piece on Jamison Campas, a young Colombian midfielder for Deportes Tolima for Y Scout that should be up in certainly in a week or so, I would imagine, just for a bit of a change from our usual Brazilian Argentinian content. Really exciting attacking midfielder. Interesting story behind his life as well. And then we've got the regular Copa Libertadores podcast with World Football Index. Me and Peter are trying to find some time for some Golazo Argentina podcast, but he's a very busy man with all his commentating these days. So yeah, we've fallen a bit behind there. But yeah, certainly if you just follow me at TomRobbo89 on Twitter, you'll find all the kind of the latest stuff that I'm doing in various different sites.
Awesome. Tom, thanks so much. Thanks for all the info. We'll catch up with you again really soon.
Awesome. Look forward to it, guys. Have a good one.
You too. Tom Robinson, make sure you're following him on Twitter, TomRobbo89. And we will be catching up again with Tom very soon, with Libertadores finishing up the group stage, Sudamericana finishing up the group stage, the Copa de la Liga playoffs, now quarterfinals this weekend. There will be plenty to discuss as we get closer to the Copa America as well, and World Cup qualifiers out of South America. I mean, it never stops. It never stops. Somebody else who never stops is our friend over in Decatur, who is very busy and does a lot of great things, including supporting this show. Steve Apolinsky in Decatur, GA. John, tell us about him.
Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, one place you need to go. It's Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. 3 different ways you can do it. Pick up the phone, give them a call, 404-377-9191. Shoot them an email, steve@aa-legal.com, or go on the World Wide Web, large device or small. Type in aa-legal.com in the address bar. Hit the enter key, the return key, the arrow key, whatever gets you to the home page. You can check out all the different cases they can help you with, all the different questions that you can have. They're handled by the pop-up window. If you still don't get answers by looking at all the pull-down tabs and seeing all the awards that they have won, that pop-up window is there 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia and Alabama, 2 time zones in play, the Eastern and the Central. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, one place you need to go. It's Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. The website is aa-legal.com.
That was almost the Micro Machines version. It was really...
Well, considering that we're right up against it, you know.
Well, yeah, I know.
I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, okay.
I know. Which means it is time for our weekly check-in on the USL Championship.
Championship. This week's stop, Tulsa, Oklahoma, where we catch up with FC Tulsa. And as it was listed by Nicholas Murray, a sterling start for FC Tulsa. And the guy who is at the heart of it all on the touchline, head coach Michael Nsien, is hanging out with us here. Coach, it is John, it is Jason. Thanks for hanging out with us here on SDH.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be on.
So, Coach, if I had told you that your start would be what it was and where you are right now, what would you have told me?
Exactly as planned. No, you just try to prepare the best you can in preseason and try to take it game by game after that. But, once the schedule came out, I felt like if we could get to the point of this long road trip having 6 points before Indy, we give ourselves a chance at a pretty good run. So we were glad to cap that off with a win at Indy.
How difficult was preseason for you, Michael, with still dealing with COVID, still dealing with protocols, just trying to get everything together in a weird time frame for teams? It feels like the leagues have gotten off to some strange starts for some teams. You guys have hit the ground running. What did you do to handle that weird time frame?
Yeah, I would say for the most part it was patience. We were off 5+ months, and my wheels were turning, wanting to come back and put my team through the paces and get them prepared. But it was like they've been off a long time. I have to be patient. I can't rush into a training session at 100% intensity, kind of ease them back in, want them to be healthy and safe. And obviously we still had some protocols. So it was like, you get back in, it's like, and then you still kind of have to, in that period that you're still kind of being patient and trying to understand the process of what was going on with the protocol. So the players had the right mindset coming in. They were hungry. Felt like we have a pretty competitive team. And they're open to learn. So I feel like the preseason was excellent.
And one of the things that I think has shown out early, Coach, is just the depth where you can get you can pretty much get a goal from any angle, any guy. You could look at your roster and sit there and go, okay, I know that he can be the one that's going to do it for me. You're getting it from a bunch of different places, and I think that that's showing up early, where we were looking at a guy like Jerome Kiesewetter coming in and being one of those instant success stories for you, but he's coming in off the bench and he's being successful, not being a starter. So I think that it shows that your depth is really showing out so far out of the blocks.
Yeah, when you have the players that we have in our front four, we feel like we can really balance the rest of the team, like organized defensively. We have really attacking fullbacks as well, so we can go to a few different angles. Jerome was somewhat unfortunate. Our first match, he took a little foot knock that week leading to the first match, so he got taken out of the lineup. And when things are going well, there's no need to change. So he's still working hard and has the right attitude. But the squad depth is incredible. So it makes it competitive for the players that if you get an opportunity, you don't want to give it back because guys are thriving.
I want to dig into your coaching journey a little bit, Michael. You've just recently went through the pro license and acquired that, and it's a kind of a new process with U.S. Soccer. How did you feel about the course, and has it helped you in your day-to-day?
Yeah, 100%. I had done all the licenses up to the A, and then I've also done my UEFA badges in Europe. I was excited to come back and do a license again in the U.S. It had been some time. When you go through those processes, you think maybe it's just one or two things I can take from it, or more, but sometimes you just get a couple of things that really stick with you. I think from the USSF Pro, one of the things that I got the most of is being able to be present, live in the moment. We coaches go through things like that. We have families and other things, and it's just like trying to find that balance consistently that you're in a good headspace. So through my mentors and colleagues and kind of the plan they put in place is just having those discussions openly. How do you deal with, the stress of a season and not seeing your family and just putting things in perspective. But they gave us very good tools to deal with that.
What's the first piece of advice that you ever got when you started your coaching journey that stuck with you, and who gave it to you?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say coaching stuff. When I was playing in Los Angeles, we had Steve Sampson and Billy McNichol that were there. I had a pretty good relationship with Billy McNichol. I would contact him after I got done playing there. Once I started coaching, I would speak to him regularly. You know, we had an opportunity. I did the Pro B license, but he told me to try to go through every phase. So I started at DC, still did the Pro B. He just said that soak everything up, that, you know, sometimes players transition into coaching and it happens too fast. You know, use the skill set you've acquired from being a player, but also dig in and just try to sink your teeth into being a coach. Like, go through every step properly. Don't skip any steps. And that's stuck with me for a long time.
Something that's come up a lot as we've talked about the USL Championship and we covered League One as well is the community aspect and getting active in the communities and how it's so important to the clubs across the country. I was reading a little bit about what you guys are doing with the Tulsa Dream League. Could you tell us about that process?
Yeah. Well, North Tulsa is a predominantly minority community. It's actually where I grew up. It's mostly African American, and it's becoming more also Hispanic. You know, there's just not much outreach. There's not much for kids to do in terms of like facilities and recreation centers anymore. So when you're not doing those things, you can find yourself in trouble. You know, when you're not busy. So I think through our club and some other donors, they were able to put together this league in North Tulsa that serves some schools. So a lot of it's school teams. Cool. So we sponsored the school teams, and it's beautiful. Like I went out a few weeks ago, and to be honest, when I played growing up as a youth player, I was the only African American that I knew from my community that was playing. So I was able to go back and see hundreds of kids on the field playing a game in my community, and it was, to be honest, it was a bit emotional for me to see that.
So when you see, when you're able to give back in your hometown, and you see someone, you know, I'm not going to say get it for the first time, but understand what soccer can mean, and when you're able to be that conduit and you can be that individual, what's it like for you to see it rub off on the younger generations and see a window open that may not necessarily have opened if that opportunity hadn't been there?
Yeah, you know, it's early. So I think the opportunities that will come their way for these kids that end up falling in love with the game, they have no idea. Just speaking on my own experience, I'm not sure how if I would have been able to go to college or to travel and see the world like I have, or obviously make a living coaching like I am now, or a former professional player. I'm not really sure how my story would be today or how it would have ended. These kids will have an opportunity that, you know, whether it's college, professionally, or just to simply be healthy, you know, and playing a sport that's all year round, that gives you a discipline that prepares you for the world, and the relationships you make. You know, anyone that's been involved in soccer a long time, like 75% or more probably of your friends and your network of people are from that community. You know, so you build a network that basically takes you out of that cycle of poverty that happens in certain communities. So I'm looking forward to the lasting impact and seeing how the growth continues from the league, and also where some of these kids hopefully end up in the future.
As a role model, you know, formerly as a player, now as a young coach, what are some of the things that you pass on in terms of advice to people who seek you out?
Yeah, it's that nothing worth doing comes easy. You know, even though I feel like after I got done playing and I wanted to be a coach, you know, you think pie in the sky. I want to coach in the Champions League. I want to do this or that, and it's like you're always you're a long ways from it. So just to take step by step, being an assistant and then jumping into a head coach role was a great opportunity for me. You know, sometimes you don't know where the opportunity is going to come from. But I think just working hard and doing the right thing step by step, eventually it'll take you to where you're supposed to be. And then ultimately, I've had a ton of ups and downs since I've been coaching, and it's like never getting too low and never getting too high on whatever's coming or whatever you're presented with, just to try to keep even keel and keep going through improving each process that you have, and just try to be a better coach every day and impart that on your players, that respect the day, and the journey, and even the sacrifice. I tell that to my players a lot. I mean, I enjoy the bad parts too, because one day they're gone and you look back and you miss them.
One of the other things that we wanted to get into with you this morning is, we've mentioned giving back to the community, but we also wanted to get into the impact that you being a hometown guy, coaching your hometown club, and being able to give folks an understanding about one of the most horrific moments in U.S. history. We're coming up on the centennial of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, and FC Tulsa has gotten to the forefront of making sure that folks don't forget. And even with something as simple as the Greenwood script on the jersey this year, when it came to wanting to make this kind of an impact and making folks not forget about what happened at Greenwood, what was that whole conversation like for you as someone who's a hometown guy and see it come to where it is now?
Yeah, it's part of my initiatives as a coach, being African American, being from this community. Actually, I'm born and raised on Greenwood, so it means a lot to me. When I spoke to our club about it, they didn't bat an eye, and they've been extremely supportive through all of this and taking the lead. Even once the season started, my focus it's really focused on the team. And so a lot of these initiatives, they've kind of taken the lead on that, and I'm impressed. I'm really happy with the club. When I think back personally on what's happened in the past in 1921, it used to make me a bit angry, but now it gives me a sense of pride knowing that I'm from a community that was extravagant. That was wealth. There was over 600 African American businesses, and it wasn't a street; it was a community. And these are things that haven't really happened again since that time. So it gives me a sense of pride where I come from. It encourages me to be the best that I can be. And I'm happy that our club, our stadium, is in the center of where everything transpired on Greenwood. So every game I get to sit in that stadium and reflect about what took part there, but not feel bad about it, but also feel a sense of pride.
It's been inspiring to see what you and your club have done to raise awareness for people who might not know, might not be from Tulsa, might not know, some of these stories. It's incredible to be able to do that and do what you guys are doing on the field so far. Perfect record. We're going to see you here in Atlanta in a couple of weeks. How would you describe the way that your team approaches the game stylistically? What's a little bit of your philosophy that you've imparted to your squad so far this season?
Yeah, well, I think one of the most important parts of the game is the transitions. So being able to get the ball and attack and be brave and be aggressive, but at the same time respect your opponent. And when you lose the ball, to quickly try to put pressure and recover. But overall, it's being flexible. You play teams that say, we want to dominate the ball or we want to play direct. I think we have the ability to do either. We can sit back and very organized blocks and counterattack. If teams dropped off of us, we have the ability to kind of pin teams back and counter press. That's the kind of the profile of a team we built. We've seen both this season so far. We've seen both in games. It's when you're on the road in the USL, you have to expect if you're winning that teams are going to throw everything at you, and you have to be very disciplined and see if you can hit them on a counter on the break and close games out. And we've been able to show that we're capable of doing that.
So then would you have rather kept on playing in short order, or would you like to have this break that you're having that's kind of forced by the schedule? You got off to a hot start. Would you have rather kept the momentum going by playing, or do you mind the time off right now?
Yeah, you can look at it both ways. I mean, you play games in quick succession. Players are going to get hurt. So we have a few guys that are a little beat up. So it's good to take a break. Also, it's mentally. I know I've been pretty demanding on the players, and sometimes they just have to have a release mentally as well, not the pressure of a match. So I think leading up to the Indy match, we talked a lot about having a bit of a break, and that we wanted to close it out with a win and then get to refocus a bit. So the guys should be hungry again for the next one.
Coach, thanks for hanging out with us. We know that you're kind of getting ready for practice, and you're going to enjoy watching everybody else play for a little bit. Looking forward to seeing FC Tulsa continue things, and congrats on the hot start. Thanks for letting us kind of poke into the office here a little bit, Michael Nsien, the head coach of FC Tulsa. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Soccer Down Here.
I appreciate the conversation. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Be well. Michael Nsien from FC Tulsa, and it's good that we can, let folks in on hot starts and things like that when it comes to what we're seeing so far with the season. Obviously, with the divisions a little jumbled, you're getting new competitions, but where Tulsa's concerned, when you can start out with a rival, start out on the road, and you're coming out of there with 3 wins on the jump, it's obviously that's the kind of start you're looking for.
3 wins out of 3. Tulsa's number 3 in the power rankings that were recently released. Tampa Bay and Phoenix hold on to the 1 and 2 spots. They're also perfect, 2-0 so far. Tulsa has been the biggest climber. El Paso had a late draw against New Mexico, and that has them drop a little bit in their first game of the season. Louisville couldn't win back-to-back. They fall to 5 in the power ranking. San Antonio falls a spot as well. Sacramento has moved up a spot with their first win of the season in Game 1. Rio Grande Valley might be the biggest storyline in the league outside of Tulsa right now, and they're going to play later this year as well. Rio Grande Valley is a really interesting one to watch with Wilmer Cabrera back in place. Vicente Sanchez, one of the oldest goal scorers in USL Championship history. That's a fun team to watch. They're one that, if you're looking at random games, on an evening and Rio Grande Valley's playing, I recommend checking in on them.
Yeah, and, this is definitely not the Rio Grande Valley squad that we've seen in the past where they're struggling toward the bottom of the division, with Wilmer Cabrera coming in. Obviously, folks who remember him from his time in Major League Soccer, if that's the first drawing card that's like, oh, I want to catch up on that, then it's an easy in for you to watch a team like RGV who's out of the blocks at 2-0, and they get San Antonio next, so that's going to be a big contest for both of them.
That's a huge one coming up. That New Mexico-El Paso game, I watched the end of that one. That was a wild one. That's a great rivalry, and I think what we're starting to see in USL Championship and USL League One, we know about Portland-Seattle. We know about the Hudson River Derby. We know here Atlanta and Orlando and the different rivalries in MLS. But you're seeing true rivalries emerge in the second and the third divisions. And it's not just, it's 2 teams here are close by. Like it has a rivalry feel. El Paso and New Mexico is a game that you should watch when that one pops up. It's a good rivalry. Tulsa, OKC Energy. That's a good rivalry. San Diego and Phoenix now. That's a good rivalry. There are good games in this league that are not just 2 good teams playing or 2 teams nearby or you're looking at this player, you're looking at that player. The game has a bigger feel to it. That was what I took away from that El Paso, New Mexico game was you could drop this game anywhere in the world and it holds up because it's just a really good match between 2 teams that don't really like each other. You had great energy in the crowd in El Paso. Like it was a really fun watch.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that has drawn me in over the last handful of years. When you go into these markets and you're bringing something new, with El Paso Locomotive, and then you have New Mexico United just one state over, and you're getting these natural additions where when you go to the lab and you're talking over 10,000 people showing up in New Mexico to watch soccer, and what you're seeing with El Paso as well. For me, it's fun to see these organic rivalries come in with these new clubs and they hop right into it. and you get to see what it's like for these pockets of the country that you might not have known were true soccer pockets for the country. And it just adds to your viewer base, and it adds to the education and what you're looking at when you're looking in the lower division.
Joaquin Rivas was named Player of the Week in the USL Championship from Tulsa. A couple of goals against Indy 11, El Salvador International. He was voted on by the national media panel. He got my vote. Team of the Week from this side of the country, Steven Dos Santos from Tampa Bay was there. Corbin Bone from Lou City was there. Forrest Lasso, who we know very well, was there. But this was a heavy Western Conference Team of the Week.
And Joaquin Rivas, Player of the Week, and Bradley Bourgeois on the defense, both for FC Tulsa. And since we mentioned what we saw with Wilmer Cabrera, past relationships coming to the fore, your keeper this week, Tyler Derrick. And so that Texas influence is there with Cabrera, and Tyler Derrick between the sticks for RGV ends up with Player of the Week for Team 3.
All right, games to keep an eye on this weekend in the USL Championship. Charleston and Charlotte on Friday night, 7 o'clock in Charleston. Red Bulls 2 hosting the Miami FC. I'm really curious to see what the Miami FC looks like this year. I know they were not happy with all of their previous success in other leagues, and they struggled last year. It was a tough go for them in the USL Championship. They've reloaded, and they have some much bigger expectations than what we've seen so far. Real Monarchs, who always has a strong squad connected to Real Salt Lake, they're hosting LA Galaxy 2 on Friday night. Move on to Saturday, Birmingham and Memphis, which is a nice little rivalry as well. That's going to be in Birmingham.
At Legion Field.
Yeah, what's the deal with the Legion Field thing?
I don't know, and it might be from what we've been discussing in the past, having to do with the field issues at BBVA, and so they move it to Legion Field, to where it's a turf surface.
Yeah, how much of Legion Field is actually operational these days?
The lower bowl is.
Okay,
and there are sections of it that are available, and UAB, until their stadium is fully operational and built, that's where UAB plays football.
Yeah.
So it's at Legion Field this go round. It'll be interesting to see how Birmingham, who is used to playing on grass, transitions over and plays on turf this go round.
Yeah, I want to see what that one looks like. Tampa Bay and Phoenix Saturday night, 8 o'clock. That is what should have been the championship match last season that was postponed because of COVID outbreaks, and that's one of the cross-conference games that has to draw your attention. Two of the best run clubs in the league.
Yeah, and that one's going to be fun. Solomon Asante, obviously, you keep an eye on Phoenix. You're looking for him for Phoenix Rising. And this one, if you're into the lower divisions, you keep an eye on this one too, just because we don't get the chance, unless you're really looking at ESPN Plus, and it is USL Championship After Dark, you're not going to be looking at Phoenix. And so this is that opportunity for those crossover games to look at two of the top teams in a regular season contest. And it's going to be an interesting night to see how it plays out.
Hey, you think MLS After Dark is crazy? Sometimes USL Championship After Dark is completely out of hand. Sunday, it won't be After Dark, but we will have a watch-along for OKC Energy hosting Atlanta United 2. That is the second time these teams have played. Crazy scheduling to go there, come back, have a week off, then go there again for Sunday afternoon, 6 afternoon local time, 6 o'clock our time. On Sunday, we'll be here on Twitch, twitch.tv/soccer down here for a watch-along of that, and the watch-along will lead straight into our Twos review show that will be live at the conclusion of the match, and that'll go out as a podcast as well once it is done recording. Anything else USL Championship you wanted to touch on?
Quickly, let's update Legion at Legion and give you the rundown on that. There was a statement that came out earlier this week from President and General Manager Jay Heaps from Birmingham. Says that, quote, "We have been working closely with UAB facilities and UAB athletics this past week and are encouraged by the progress being made to address the current field conditions at BBVA Field. Collectively, we've made the decision to protect the field and play this game at Legion Field. BBVA is an excellent venue. Look forward to the rest of the season, continued partnership with UAB facilities and athletics." And they're very complimentary about the city turning this one around short notice so they could have Legion at Legion. So it is to protect the field at BBVA.
All right. We will be back next Thursday for our next USL Championship review. And this always goes out as a separate podcast, but it's part of our Thursday morning show in the 10 o'clock hour to kick things off. So you can watch it live or you can check the podcast later. Michael Nsien was great. It was awesome to catch up with him and everything that's going on out in Tulsa. Lane United 2 has their home opener next Wednesday before our next championship recap. I'm sure we'll be talking about it between now and then on the regular SDH shows, but hope to see a good number of you at Fifth Third Bank Stadium for Tulsa's visit to Atlanta. Should be a fun match.
A little action at the Fraction involving FC Tulsa. It's going to be a fun one. And that'll do it for our look at the USL Championship here on SDH.
Jeff Cameron has signed with FC Cincinnati. That has been announced. Everybody wanted to go crazy this morning with everything going on. Cameron is signed to Cincinnati. The MLSPA has unveiled salaries as well. So it is a hectic morning. Cincinnati needs all the help they can get. So
yes, they do.
I don't know how much help Jeff Cameron will be at this stage of his career, but he has been playing regularly in England. What will this look like for Jeff Cameron in Cincinnati? I'm still a little skeptical about everything they're just throwing at the wall to see if it sticks.
And apparently, according to Stephen Goff, FC Cincinnati has a league-high 6 players making at least $1 million. San Jose, Dallas, and Red Bulls have one apiece.
Spending that money. I mean, throwing that cash around Cincinnati, but what are the results for it?
Yes.
You know, I mean, that's come up in a lot of different places, but I'm looking for those results, and I'm not finding them.
Nope. And, you know, you want to make that big splash by going into the new stadium, and it's like, okay, we're in the West End. We have all of this. We have all these things going on that are tremendously positive, and you're still not putting it together on the pitch. This could be a very, very clunky year for FC Cincinnati in a new barn.
And they get the home opener this weekend, national TV. I don't know. It feels like they really need to make a big statement, and are they capable of that? That's the part I'm just not sure. Yeah, Burned, I know I saw the conversation in the Twitch pitch about next Wednesday. I don't know what's going on other than what Abby said about waiting on some guidance and information from KSU about, you know, whatever the delay is on tickets, and I'm guessing what the capacity will be and such. I hate that it's lingered on like this, but I don't know where KSU is on opening fully or opening partially, which they did for football this spring, which they did for the CONCACAF Champions League as well. I don't know where they are at the moment, so it's kind of hard when you don't have control over the building on some of these things.
And looking at, we were talking about Cincinnati quickly. Juice boxes right now. Inter Miami. This is 1600, 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. Cincinnati is a plus 265 underdog at home right now against Inter Miami. The draw is about the same. Inter Miami is a plus 100 going to Cincinnati right now.
A couple of talking points out of the MLSPA release without digging into it yet because it was just dropped a little bit ago. The MLSPA notes that the average base salary for senior roster non-designated players has more than doubled over the last 5 years. 2016, it was $191,500. Now it is $398,725. That's the average base senior roster non-designated player spot. Also, salaries for players in roster spots 4 through 18 grew on average more than 10% per year over the last 5 years. And 2021 marks the 10th consecutive year of average base salary increases for senior roster non-designated players. So That investment's continuing to grow. It's getting there. I'm kind of with what Darren Eales told us on Countdown to Kickoff last week. I'd like to see it go faster. I think there are a number of owners in the league who would also like to see it go faster. It's not quite there yet, and I hope that kicks up quickly because I think you're starting to see returns on this investment. Can you see more returns with more investment?
Yes.
Seems to be that's a reasonable thing. All right. Mateo is very busy this morning. Mateo will be dialing up our good friend out in Seattle, Niko Moreno, to talk about everything from last night in MLS, especially the Sounders' big win at PayPal Park over the San Jose Earthquakes. Niko is with Pulso Sports, which is a great outlet, highly recommended, English and Spanish, to follow. And Niko, as you guys have gotten to know him, great conversation here about the league, and Niko's with us. You awake, Niko?
Yes, we are awake. One cup of coffee down and ready to talk, ready to go. Honestly, a crazy, interesting, wild night for the final game of Wednesday in MLS, the San Jose Seattle game. But yes, I am definitely awake.
MLS after dark, brother. That's what happens.
That is correct.
What's your sense on the Stephen Fry situation? Alex Roldan had to finish up in goal with Stephen Fry going out. Anything after the match about what's up with Stephen?
Nothing. Honestly, nothing. I didn't expect anything.
Yeah.
Brian was very short. Sometimes he gives you a little bit of a smart key remark. He didn't do that. He was just very short and said, we're going to evaluate him in Seattle. That alone makes me think, at least for an initial perspective or initial look at what was going on, that it has to be serious. You hope that it's not. But looking at the fall and the pain in Stephen Frey's face, it doesn't look good. And honestly, that's the one position where Seattle perhaps has the biggest drop of talent because of everything that Stephen brings to the table, from not just being a goalkeeper, but being a leader in the locker room. And it would be really hard for Seattle to replace him. Richie will more likely take the role at backup goalkeeper. But yes, I initially, my first thoughts, my sense, it just seems like it's a serious situation in his part. Obviously, there's a lot to be looked at. No injury gets looked at immediately. The swelling has to go down for a scan or anything, X-ray, to come out accurately. So I don't expect any news for at least another day. But definitely a tough situation, and my prayers go out to Steph. He is a fantastic player, a great person in general, one of the nicest guys in this league. He fights for players' rights. He fights for his team. I mean, he's just an outstanding guy beyond the pitch, beyond his abilities, and being one of the best goalkeepers in this league.
And looking at the match in and of itself, aside from the injury and the ending, it's a week where it's a double match week for Seattle, and obviously important to get that 3 points out against a San Jose team that has really shown itself to be a thorn in a lot of folks' sides early this season.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be it's going to be a tough game to take on for Seattle. Because of the anemic downfall that, 2 injuries can bring on, because it wasn't just Steph, but also Jordan DeLem on a short week. LAFC, being a team that it is a rival. It's someone who's going to want to come to Seattle and get 3 points away. I mean, definitely a game that is going to take a lot out of Brian Smetzer to put his guys, his leaders. Obviously, it was an alternative team midweek. You got to see 2 young players yesterday in Double Air, and Danny Leyva, both play well. So I expect a full lineup. The best of the best will play on Sunday here at Lumen Field. But I think that the most important thing is how this team will react to those news, what the severity of those news are, and how Brian and the rest of his coaching staff can lift up the spirit of this team that is undefeated and deservingly so, and that they can continue on that path.
Yeah, Seattle's been the most impressive team in the league, and LAFC has been okay, but they haven't had Carlos Vela. He has returned to training. We've at least seen pictures of this. I don't know if that means he'll be available from the start this weekend, but this is a big game, I think, as Seattle continues with a very difficult schedule early on to establish that they're the team to beat out west.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. They might be the team to beat in the league, with how they've been able to prove that there's depth. Like I said, how they put out a lineup yesterday that not a lot of people expected. Brian's ability to just shift players into new roles, and them immediately just knowing the identity of the team, the way they should be attacking, how they get forward, the discipline in transition defense that they showed yesterday many of times. So yes, I think they are that team that they should be the team to beat in the entire league. You mentioned an LAFC team that has not been impressive. That honestly, it looks like Diego Rossi is still trying to get some rust off of his knees and feet. He hasn't been playing a lot. But obviously he gets that goal, which is important for him for his confidence. They still lost, obviously, El Tráfico in a pretty decent game, but in one that they continue to be overwhelmingly flat. I think there's just not a lot of spark at times with these LAFC teams, so it's going to be interesting. I thought that yesterday was indicative to what Seattle could bring to the table, because San Jose is no pushover. San Jose is a very well-coached team. There's a lot of young talent. Yesterday, Yemer Gomez Andrade, I saw this wonderful graphic that I retweeted, and it's a photo of Yemer driving a school bus with children in the back. And they were saying, Yemer yesterday was taking children to school, and it was definitely that. I mean, yesterday he was absolutely outstanding. That defensive presence was great yesterday. So, yes, it's definitely an excellent team for their resiliency, for their depth, and who they are in general these days.
There's a couple other teams I want to ask you about. Sorry, John, but I got to ask you about LAFC, because I almost wonder if this group's been together for a long time now, and it's pretty much the same group. I'm with you. I'm seeing flat. It looks like a team without a spark. Did they need to go out and make, I think, a bigger move in the offseason maybe, because Corey Baird hasn't really sparked anything. Musovski playing more doesn't change anything. It feels like a team that is just going through the motions in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to try to revigorate that team in some form. We know that Brian Rodriguez was an important player for this team. He was another playmaker, another player that, could stretch out defenses, that he played well in that attacking third. Yes, Baird perhaps is a good option coming off the bench, or a good solid player at times, but he doesn't have that X factor, that ability to just change games. They've tried to make Cifuentes that guy. And El Tráfico, he wasn't impressive. I've been asking for him to get the start. The Ecuadorian does, and he does get pulled off a little earlier than I thought he would. So it's definitely a difficult task for Bob Bradley to match how early this team peaked and the expectations that they set within their own standards. And they just haven't been able to replicate it. And yes, Vela is such a huge, important player because he amplifies everything that you do. This 4-3-3 needs a player like Carlos Vela that's not only going to be able to create, but maybe cut inside and shoot and score and be aggressive and off of set pieces and everything that Carlos Vela brings to the table. So they do need that X factor up top because right now it's Rossi, Atuesta, and just a lot of other good players, but no star players. I think Rossi and Atuesta are the main part of this team, but they need help. They need a lot of help.
All right, so then since we've been talking about LAFC, let's go across town and talk about the other part of El Tráfico here with the Galaxy. Are we completely sold now? Are we all in on the Galaxy turning things around, or is this just early season results and kind of like that new pitcher that we see in Major League Baseball get the call up, and the first time through the league, you don't quite have the book on Greg Vanney's LA Galaxy, and it adjusts the second time through? Where are you on the Galaxy right now?
I love that metaphor. That's great. Look, honestly, I'm still not sold. And that is because when they faced the one true contender or the one real difficult team this season, they were unable to do any damage. Chicharito was completely neutralized. Giovanni Dos Santos was frustrated. I mean, it wasn't a good game for the LA Galaxy here in Seattle. And because of what we've just been talking about, LAFC and their deficiencies and their inability to really be that important team that dictates pace and dictates the game, I can't really say that. I will say that they have been a lot better than I thought that they would be. I think Greg Vanney once again proves that good leadership, a good coach can really shift the character of a team. He could do a lot with a lot of the same pieces that Guillermo Barrios Schelotto had in the past. And now they just seem to be playing better. Javier Hernandez is getting in better positions. He looks more fit. He looks more motivated. Subek has been a really good player. Dos Santos, that goal that he gets, he's literally pushing himself in the last part of the game to get this goal. And it's something that we didn't really see out of him maybe last year or a few years back. So it is that Greg Vanney mentality to really get this team going. Araujo has been playing great. I mean, in reality, with the pieces that they have, Greg Vanney's really installed that mentality of a winning team. So I do feel like they're a good team. And if you're telling me if am I sold on in the fact that they're one of the best in the West, no. But I am sold on that Greg Vanney is the right choice, and will eventually, once he has enough time to bring in his players, to get his itinerary fulfilled in the roster, that this team will once again be back to its greatness that it had early in MLS history, or just 6-7 years ago.
How much time do you think Adrian Heath bought himself with a not really impressive 1-0 win over Vancouver last night?
I'm still underwhelmed, man. I mean,
I am too.
I honestly, he might have bought himself another 5 games or another 3 units down in the standings in the Western Conference.
Well, I mean, do we get to the international break and sit there and think about it? I mean, if it's this bad or continues to get worse, is it the international break in June?
Let's look at what he's got coming up. He hosts Dallas in 2 days. That's not exactly an easy one. He goes to Salt Lake, who's shown some really good performances this year, yes. And then Salt Lake is not one of the bigger teams, so how will they be able to handle that? Then they go to Dallas, so you're going to see Dallas twice in the next 3. That second Dallas game is actually after the break, so you've got 2 games. It's weird. They have a bye, so you've only got 2 games before the break. You host Dallas this weekend. Then you have a week off. Then you go to Salt Lake to finish before the international break. I don't think either one of those is a situation where I'm looking at Minnesota as a favorite.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely not. No, you're absolutely right. And he will take a lot of this same grindy and perhaps getting your butt saved by a good header by Juan Chope and maybe a good free kick from Reynoso like we've seen in the last couple of weeks with this team. But there's still not a lot. So yes, I think he's buying himself some time, but in my opinion, it is inevitable that he will be gone, and the guys on top of him and that front office need to be held accountable for the lack of success this team has had. I will say that it was nice to see them bring more numbers forwards. I think Gasper had a really good game, and he has been important for them in the past. Obviously, Ozzy was more involved. Even getting that yellow, I feel like is part of his game.
Yeah. Gets him going.
That's what you see out of Alonso, right? He brings that. And Reynoso was more involved, and his need to be more in the final third makes them a better team. So I like to see that from them. Maybe his pride got touched a little bit with everything that's been said about the team, but still was just not enough. And I agree. I think that there needs to be some heads that need to roll for this team to just completely change. Something needs to be snapped, and Adrian hit maybe by himself, like you said, maybe to the international break.
All right. So then in the East last night, Club de Foot Montréal goes to Miami, which they were doing anyway because they were there, and gets the Duke against Inter Miami. And right now you look at the standings, and on goal difference, Club de Foot Montréal is on top of the East. Looking at the game last night, and I guess on the whole with these two clubs, does it say more about how good CF is coming out of the blocks or how bad Inter Miami is coming out of the blocks?
That's a really good question. And I'll say I'm going to give credit where credit is due because of what we thought of Montreal. So I will say because of how good Montreal is. Because, yes, Inter Miami has not been great. They have not looked good, but they've been able to pull some results out of the talent that they have up top, out of a good experienced team at times. But in reality, it's not what we expect from Inter Miami. And yesterday, they got exposed. And the body language in the players tell you that they were just getting outplayed, outperformed. I mean, honestly, Montreal was just better overall in passing, in possession, winning duels, their ability to just willingly, physically just dominate the game. I mean, it was interesting the way that, honestly, Montreal just took it to them completely. And this is a Inter Miami team that, yes, they have a lot of figures and they have a lot of names, but at the end of the day, they don't seem to have that chemistry and that cohesiveness. And you can see that from a team that on the other spec has been working together. They seem to understand what they want to do. And whenever you know what you're about, what your identity is, you could be a dangerous team. So I'm going to give 110% of the credit to this new revived version of Montreal. New logo, new identity, new team name, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's looked really good. Kyoto has been great ever since last season.
Yeah, yes.
Honestly, the midfield will give you a lot of box-to-box effort in general. So I really like this team. So I'm going to give them credit.
Yeah, they're a fun team to watch. It's going to be, I think, a pretty open game with Atlanta and Montreal this weekend. Strummer John in the Twitch pitch is asking, what's your opinion of Atlanta United so far?
Oh, man, that's tough, especially after, that Felipe Cardenas article that just kind of shook the nation. I still want to see what Nsien can do with more time. Look, I understand that he has kind of been this guy, and I've heard a lot of fans in Atlanta just talk about Nsien just wanting to prove himself and display himself and showcase what he can do so he can go somewhere else. I don't think that's the case. I think Nsien is a passionate guy. He's a winner. He's going to want to bring this team to play the way he wants it to play. The fact that Joseph Martinez is finally got a goal and he's going to be able to build on that. And you can see the emotion that he felt when he scored that. We saw the photo of him and his physician or the person that helped him with his rehab. So I think the pieces are there, and I feel like the identity of the team will continue to be the same kind of a team that likes to fight. That perhaps right now they're only showing you 45 minutes of good play, because I feel like we could say that about this Atlanta team.
Absolutely accurate.
Like the first half, they seem to play a lot better. Maybe the gas goes out, or I'm not quite sure exactly what it is.
It's been one half or the other. No, you're dead on with that, because if it's a slow start, it's a good second half. If it's a good first half, and yeah, I do think, like in Miami, for example, I think the legs were gone in the second half because of playing midweek, 8 games. I mean, it added up. But you're right. They're 45 minutes or so is where they look really good right now. It's not 90 yet. It's not even 60 yet.
Yeah, they're like a one-half team, right?
Yeah.
So you could build on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like the runs are being made. This is a more aggressive team. I mean, when we go back to what Frank DeBoer was showing us, or was showing with his team, I mean, this is night and day regardless of, because they try to be protagonists. They try to implement their style of play. Sosa is such a good player. He's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd love to see it in the midfield, and his ability to just move the reins and put balls through. Give Moreno some time. I've heard mixed reviews on him. I've liked Marcelino.
Same.
I think he's a very good player. I think he's going to continue to be great. So there's just too much talent, and there's too much of a good foundation and displays of just small showcases of good soccer for Atlanta not to be good. So I'm not completely sold yet, but give it time, guys. Give it time, because it's there. I see it.
Let me go into the East here for a second. And what did you think about the rebrand in Columbus?
Oh, man. Ooh. Man, this was like Mother's Day, right? And I was incredibly busy, and I was trying to get on Twitter and give my reaction, and I'm unable to, because I got mama and I got grandma and I got wifey, and it was just, it was hard. And I kept looking at this logo. I even remember bringing my son over. He's 14, and I'm like, what do you think of this? Like, is it just me? I mean, maybe I'm old school. What do you think about this? And he's like, Dad, it looks like it's from like a Fortnite video or something, like a video game logo. It's just weird. And I'm like, yes, that's what it looks like. I mean, it's weird. I hated it. I thought that they did it completely wrong. I hate it when the fan base is not involved and they just get blindsided by this awful looking symbol, and where you can tell that they didn't go back to a fan base that's so proud, that has gone through so much, from Save the Crew to everything, to now getting a cup and really showing up for the team. And now when they're in this great success, when they're playing CONCACAF Champions League and all this stuff, and yes, they got eliminated, but they were there. And now we want to do a rebrand. Now we want to change the logo and what this team is about. I mean, come on, man. It was awful. Totally unnecessary and unplanned. Just everything about it was just negative.
And to do it in the middle of the season too, it's just the whole like rollout and everything with it is just baffling to me. I'll tell you what's also baffling, Niko. I'm gonna give you a list. I don't know if you've had a chance to dig into this, because it dropped maybe an hour ago. The salaries around MLS, the Players Association dropped it. But your top teams in terms of spend, your top 6: Miami's number 1, Toronto's number 2, Galaxy 3, Atlanta 4, LAFC is 6, Cincinnati is 5.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the base guaranteed compensation, but one of these is not like the others.
Yes, and Jeff Cameron's coming in the door.
Yep.
Hey, look, guys, I haven't had a chance to look at everything. Literally, when you called me, I was going through the individual players.
Yeah.
And it literally took me a second, because this is, telling of how a team can easily put themselves in debt and not necessarily show on the field. And Cincinnati, like you said, is not like the others. And honestly, I thought Brenner was a really good
Yeah,
find,
I
but
agree.
hasn't really shined. And I know that they're trying to um, change how awful they initially started this roster when they first came into the league, because you didn't see anything good out of this team in general. Uh, but it's gonna take a lot more, man. Honestly, when I look at them being a top 5 team and what they produce on the pitch, man, it's sad, man. That's like you got like you bought yourself a Ferrari and you opened up the hood and you saw that you had a Ford Beretta engine in it. I mean, I don't know.
Or
I mean,
you put regular gas in it.
yeah, exactly. Something just crazy that it's insane to me that they're so high in there. I haven't got a chance to really go back and look at everything. Some of the teams make sense. Miami, obviously, after they got dinged and having 4 DPs essentially, and Matuidi and Higuain and Pizarro. I mean, these are quality players, international players. We were all shocked when Matuidi came in and they were saying he wasn't a DP, but we knew better, right?
Yeah,
So,
everybody's like, "Oh, this is a crazy signing. Why are you signing him as a DP? Oh, he's not a DP. Oh, yeah, that's a great signing." It's like, well, how'd you get him not as a DP? Like, come on.
yeah,
Well, because we said so. He's not a DP.
That's
So
basically what
exactly.
they did,
we
seems
said
like.
so. There's your defense.
Look, I got this paper right here that says not DP.
He's good.
You want to see it? That's what it says.
I mean,
It's
did they
good-
counterfeit some like allocation money? Did they make some photocopies of allocation money and say, "No, we've got it here"? Like, what? What did they do, and why do we still not have a punishment?
So you see, and still that Inter Miami team has been so bad compared to what they're putting into the field, right? I mean, initially last season when they brought Alonso as the coach, and how I was never a fan of him, even when he was in Liga MX, and he was always defensive towards the media whenever you'd question his ideas and things, and then the players that they brought in, and just simply the lack and the inability to really put a cohesive team. And this is why Austin, for me, is such a good team, is because as they're building the roster, like you see it, you're like, oh, it's like Tetris. Like things are just fitting into place, and you see them just disappear. Oh. But when it comes to this Miami team and this Cincinnati team, you just didn't see that, right? It wasn't that smoothly. So that's kind of what it tells me. I love to see that Sounders is not necessarily at the top there, because they have used their resources in the best of their abilities, right? Bringing in homegrown players. You saw that they just signed another one this week. Their abilities to just bring guys in like Kellen Rowe and Freddie Montero, who is in basically a league minimum, and he's coming off the bench. He's scoring for you, right? You're getting that hometown discount. That's what makes good teams. The ability to use resources to the best of their abilities, and Sounders does it wonderfully.
Niko, what you got coming up over the next week before we talk to you ahead of Atlanta and Seattle?
Well, I'm hoping to get a round table of Titans here in Seattle. Hopefully Matt Pence, Jackson Phelps, a lot of the big time guys here to join me sometime within the next couple of days to do a really good StreamYard episode and talk about the Sounders, because I'm expecting some news one way or another. So I really want to dig in on what this team could do, what we can see from them here coming up. So that's coming up. We are going to have a very good Raul Diaz piece that we're going to be displaying this weekend, hopefully. And yeah, that's the 2 biggest things.
Awesome. Niko, first off, thanks for always joining us, especially early. And I know with the game last night, I was like, hey, man, if you want to tap out, it's no problem.
No, guys, no. I'm literally gonna be brewing here my next cup of coffee. But like I said, this is my favorite way to start my Thursdays. I enjoy your conversation. Love everything about this show. Love the audience. So thank you guys for having me. Thank you, audience, for listening. And it's just wonderful. I love to see it. That Raul Diaz piece will be coming out. Sounded our heart. I'll make sure to let you guys know when that goes out. And yeah, it's gonna be good.
Excellent. Well, we will owe you a case of coffee here coming up. Yeah. And I wish this Atlanta-Seattle game, like I was telling you, was later in the year where we might be able to travel. But one of these days, either you're going to make it to Atlanta or we're going to make it out to Seattle, and we'll see you in person. But thanks for always making some time for us. We appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely, guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Yep. Have a good rest of the day.
You too. Bye-bye, guys.
Niko Moreno, El Rolo NW on Twitter. Make sure you're following him. He jumps on Spaces quite a bit with a lot of the Titans of Seattle and also just all over American soccer. Niko's killing it these days, so it's awesome that he can take some time for us and hang out with us on Thursdays. Next week will be a very interesting conversation as we get ready for Atlanta-Seattle. The rest of the day is going to be really interesting for John and I. We'll be calling GHSA state finals action from McEachern High School. That's why we're going to end here in just a second because, we got 2 games to call the rest of the day. These vocal cords need a little bit of a break. Who is playing today so you can let the people know, and where can they watch?
Well, they can watch at the NFHS Network, so nfhsnetwork.com. And they are your source for a lot of the championships, not just here in the state of Georgia, but I think it's over 40 of the 50 states are tied to the NFHS and the National Federation Network. So that's the fun part with that. When you look at the soccer championships themselves, it's 4 separate sites, and it lays itself out with, and I'm trying to get the rundown here so it's correct. It's at McEachern, it's at Duluth, it's at Mercer University at Five Star Stadium, where we called games 2 years ago in Central Georgia, and it's at Savannah Memorial. And for us, it is a big matchup to start things off with Blessed Trinity and St. Pius. That is at 5:30. And then you have a great matchup in boys soccer with McIntosh and Johnson Gainesville. That is at 8 o'clock. And then tomorrow, I will be with Jessica Charman for the early game. Once again, it's the girls, and it's Cambridge and Johns Creek, 2 teams out of the northern Atlanta area. And then you get Jess for the nightcap as well.
Yeah, I'll be on play-by-play for the 8 o'clock game tomorrow night, Dalton and Johns Creek. So Johns Creek is in both, but I'm really excited for the 2 boys games because Johnson of Gainesville is a team that we've called before. It's a team that I saw here a few weeks ago when they played Northview, and they're a fun team to watch. Incredibly talented. They play good soccer. To see a high school team that plays good, organized soccer. They've got a great holding midfielder. They've got speed out wide. They're a fun team to watch. And McIntosh is just one of the heavyweights. They're one of the blue bloods in Georgia high school soccer. They've got so many trophies. McIntosh Johnson tonight will be a blast. Johns Creek Dalton tomorrow will be a blast. Dalton's put so many players in D1 college, players who are playing in USL League 2, playing in NISA, players who are getting big opportunities. Dalton's a hotbed. Those are big games on the boys' side. The St. Pius Blessed Trinity game, St. Pius is that powerhouse on the girls' side in 5A. That will be a really good match as Blessed Trinity will give them everything they can hope for. But St. Pius probably goes in as the favorite there.
Yeah. Just to give you the rundown of all the other games. Today it's Savannah Memorial, 5:30 and 8. Our buddy John Kuhn will be calling these games. Love it, going for the daily double there. It is against Bremen for the girls' game at 5:30, Pace Academy for the boys' game at 8. At 5 Star, it's the AAA, Westminster and Greater Atlanta Christian. And then once again, we talk about the influence that we're seeing out of Northwest Georgia with Southeast Whitfield, Northwest Whitfield. Coahulla Creek makes it into the championship. So Coahulla Creek takes on Westminster at 8 at 5 Star. At Duluth, it's Quad A today. North Oconee and Marist is at 5:30. Southeast Whitfield, East Hall boys, that's at 8. And then we have the stuff at McEachern. That is your rundown today.
Yeah, Jessica Charman will be down in Mercer today before she joins us at McEachern tomorrow. Thanks to everybody at NFHS for having us back on the call. You can watch those games with a subscription at nfhsnetwork.com/GHSA. It supports being able to do this more and more. And something that I saw across the board this year was more schools taking advantage of what NFHS offers to them to broadcast games. I saw more soccer games being broadcast statewide at the high school level than I've ever seen. Usually it would be a handful in the playoffs before the finals. A lot of schools are broadcasting games on a regular basis now, which is really cool to see. And NFHS has a great program to allow schools to be able to do that. So if you're interested, the games tonight will be a lot of fun, both on the girls and the boys side. Same tomorrow, 5A tonight, 6A tomorrow. And John and I will be at McEachern calling those each day, and Jess will join us tomorrow. So we've got to take a break for the rest of the day until we get there and get ready to call 2 games, very intense games too. These finals, I've been so impressed. I started calling these in 17, and to see from 17 to 19 the growth. We didn't have finals last year, but the growth in those 3 years of the level of play, the tactical knowledge. I don't know what it'll look like for spectators, but that was a huge element that we saw at Mercer as well, especially in 19, where the students who are following their friends on the field are chanting and playing drums, and it felt like a big deal atmosphere. I hope we get a little bit of that tonight and tomorrow, but it's going to be fun regardless because these are really cool stories to get to tell. So, again, thanks to GHSA and the NFHS for having us back, and hopefully you can maybe join us for a game or 2 over the next couple of days. We will be back tomorrow for SDH. Mike Conti will join us in the morning. We'll get ready for Atlanta and Montreal. Gabriel Heinze will speak to the media later today. So make sure you're following all your usual suspects on that. I'm sure there will be a lot of things coming out of that. Questions about Barco, questions about Dom. Are they available? We'll see what else Gabriel Heinze has to tell us. Jake Mulroney's also speaking to the media today from Atlanta United. So thanks for hanging out with us. We will talk to you tomorrow morning. Mucho platio.
Mucho platio.